Today we'll be talking about AWS IoT SiteWise Edge. I'm Yubo Wang, Senior Developer Advocate of AWS, and I have invited two guest speakers, Nicholas and Usman. Welcome. First, can you make a brief introduction of yourself? Let's start from Nicholas.
Yeah, Nicholas Puyas. I'm a Senior Software Development Manager for AWS IoT.
Usman.
Hey everybody, I'm Usman Anwar. I'm Principal Product Manager on the AWS IoT team.
Yes, thank you. And as we know, we announced the preview of SiteWise Edge, which has a new capability of AWS IoT SiteWise. And first, we'd like to know more about the SiteWise Edge. And what's SiteWise Edge? And why should I use SiteWise Edge?
Ready? Thanks Yubo for the time and having us on the show. So let's start with what is SiteWise Edge. To understand SiteWise Edge, you need to understand the AWS IoT SiteWise service that we GA'd a few months ago. So SiteWise service allows you to collect data from industrial sources such as historians and equipment over common industrial protocols such as OPC-UA. It helps you create virtual representations of the data, so you can define your equipment, your hierarchies using the data, define measurements for those equipment inside what we call asset models. And then you can query data from these asset models, or you can use the SiteWise monitor to visualize uh, the data from the asset models. Now, SiteWise Edge allows you to do all of this uh, at the edge on premises. So what you can do is you can collect the data using the SiteWise gateway locally. You can use the asset models that you have defined in the cloud locally to label the data and to compute transforms and metrics from the data. And then you can visualize that data using monitor dashboards that SiteWise Edge brings to your to the SiteWise gateway. So the monitor dashboards are served directly from the gateway, and you can launch them in any web browser on the local network. And why should you use it? So there are several reasons. A big reason that customers tell us is often their industrial facilities are located in remote areas where the internet connection can be intermittent. So if they're doing local monitoring, such as they have built a dashboard to monitor, efficiency of a production line, they want to make sure that that dashboard continues to work even if the connection to the cloud is unavailable. So with SiteWise Edge, they can collect and process all the data locally instead of in the cloud, and serve it to their local monitor dashboards or any local applications that they might have developed. And what that does is that if the internet connection goes down, you still have all the data for the application to continue functioning. Another reason for customers to use this is just to enable remote monitoring, or monitoring using cloud applications and analytics in the cloud. And by enable, I mean several customers tell us that their industrial equipment data just outputs a lot more data than they need for monitoring and for analytics. Like the data could be much higher frequency than what is required. They might have an equipment that's emitting 10 data points per second for a sensor measurement, whereas what you need is just like uh, one data point per second or one data point per minute. So with SiteWise Edge, you can filter that data, the high frequency data to low frequency data in your gateway, and then only send the data that you really need to the cloud. This helps with optimizing your bandwidth. So as I mentioned, like in remote sites, not only is internet connectivity intermittent, bandwidth can be constrained. It could be shared with many applications. So if you're sending just the data you need to the cloud, you're optimizing your use of that. And then you can also optimize the cost of storing the data in the cloud and so forth.
Yeah, thank you. And we learn a lot about SiteWise Edge. And so as we know, AWS has so many services and so many IoT features. And how does SiteWise Edge work together with other AWS services?
So, uh, a great question. Primarily, we send the SiteWise Edge, the data that it collects, it sends to the SiteWise cloud service, the processes and collects into the cloud service. However, you have an option to export data, process data from your gateway to other services such as S3 or TimeStream. SiteWise Edge under the covers uses Greengrass, so we use the Greengrass Stream Manager to process a lot of the streams on the device. So you are able to like write or deploy a Lambda function that can read data from this Greengrass stream and forward to any service of your choice. Um, so that's one way in which it can interact with other services. Another way is SiteWise Edge can deploy to edge offerings that such as Snowball Edge devices. It can also deploy to AWS Outpost instances.
Okay, great. And we can see that SiteWise Edge has so many advantage and usage and can work very closely with other AWS services. And for next, I think, do we have any demos or how about our user experiences for SiteWise Edge? Can you share some insights?
Sure. Give me one moment as I switch to the console. Are you able to see the console?
Huh? Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
This would be one moment.
Well, maybe while you do this, Usman, let me proactively address a question that we often get about hardware that we support for the different gateways. Um, SiteWise Edge currently supports working on Linux industrial computers, will work, as Usman mentioned, on AWS No Family devices, as well as AWS Outpost. Um, there is a minimal spec that we require for any of those environments, which is to have 4 cores, 16 gigs of RAM, as well as making sure that you get 256 SSD storage. So those are the minimal spec we work on at this point in time for the preview.
Thank you, Nicholas. Mm, So I think our screen share is ready, and let's look at our console demo.
So you guys can see this?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So here I am. I'm in the SiteWise console. Now you would see an option called Edge, and under that you have gateways. So gateway
Sorry,
is
close it. Sorry for that. You just close it. We cannot see now. So you have to share your screen.
Maybe I'll need to
Yeah.
answer another.
can you see it now?
Yeah. During our history share, I'd like to ask more questions
Oh,
to
no.
Nicholas. Okay.
Alrighty.
The
So,
the share is
so yeah, we are in the SiteWise console, and the way SiteWise works is there's a gateway device that you install on premises that connects to your local data sources and collects the data. So now, those of you who are familiar with SiteWise, you would find this experience familiar, similar to how you have said created gateways before. It's the same experience. However, now you have this opportunity to install what we call the data processing pack, which would install all the capabilities to compute and metrics use and transforms using asset models on your gateway. This would also enable the gateway to serve SiteWise monitor dashboards. So all you need to do is create the gateway the same way, just enable the data processing pack. And after you've done that, you go to your models and you find model that you want to put on SiteWise Edge, and you can go and you'll find this option to configure the model for Edge. So if you select that, now you would see this UI is going to list down all the metrics and transforms and measurements that are defined in that model. And you have a couple of options. You can choose to compute all of your metrics and transforms at the edge. If you choose this option, then what SiteWise Edge does is it keeps the raw measurements that you're reading at the edge, and then it uses these measurements to compute transforms, and then it uses the transforms to compute metrics that you might have defined. So in this example, we have a simple temperature in Fahrenheit that is being read by the gateway. We transform that into temperature in Celsius, and then we compute the average. You also have the option to select which one of these you want to compute at the edge and which one of these you want to compute in the cloud. So there might be use cases where you may want to compute the metric in the cloud because you're computing the metric for, like, say, a week, and you need to access all the a week's worth of data that's available in the cloud. So those kind of metrics are best computed in the cloud. There might be a metric that you might be using for your cross-site dashboards, so uh, it might make sense to compute them there. So yeah, like after you've done configuring them, you just hit save. And what SiteWise Edge is going to do is it's going to sync these the asset models to with your gateway and start the processing on the gateway. And Nicholas in a bit is going to get into the technical details of that. Uh, with that, let me just switch really quickly into a demo where we can show you how this works in real life. Are you able to see my screen and the dashboard on the screen?
Yep, it's good.
Awesome. Alrighty. So basically here I have a monitor dashboard that's reading data directly from oops, let's see. That's reading data directly from a gateway device. So you can see that in the header, in the address bar, it's pointed to a local address, which is the address of this gateway. So I'm getting data live from that gateway. I can see data for the measurements. And here I am in my cloud console, and you can see that I'm not getting any measurement data there. Now I switch back to my local console. And I'm on my local console, I'm getting transforms because I'm computing them at the edge, and I am forwarding these transforms to the cloud so you can see them in the cloud dashboard as well. Uh, we moved so basically, if this is a situation where you have uh, you are keeping your measurements at the edge so they don't show up in the cloud console, but you compute and forward the transform from the edge to the cloud, so you see the transform in both the cloud dashboards and the local dashboards. You can also monitor your gateways locally using the Ops Hub application. So this is a Windows application you can download from our documentation. You log in, you can see like hardware, the performance of your device, CPU utilization, free memory. You can see how that has changed over time. Super helpful if you're trying to debug your device if it's not performing as expected. You can also see all the asset models that are deployed on this device. And within that, you can see the measurements, the transforms. If the transform is being calculated at the edge, you can see the latest value. You can also go and find the monitor portals that are running, that are available from this gateway, and launch them in your web browser. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Nicholas.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great demo. Yeah. And as we know, SiteWise Edge is industry focused. And what kind of industrial data source can I read from, Nicholas?
Yeah, so currently, SiteWise Edge delivers support for data sources through the deployment of the data collection pack on a gateway. What comes with that is the support for OPC UA, which was already there in SiteWise with the SiteWise gateway. There is the addition that we announced today of Modbus and Ethernet IP as data sources. So this allows us to connect to different PLCs that will support those protocols, as well as SCADA systems and different historian that would exist in the shop floor.
Yeah, thank you. And how does SiteWise Cloud and Edge parts work with each other? Any insight for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I think, the core of how we like to talk about SiteWise Edge and SiteWise Cloud, right? This interaction between the two main parts. So I like to think about it as three main interactions. The first one is going into the SiteWise Cloud console, as Usman showed us a few minutes ago, and configuring centrally your gateway, right? You're going to configure one to multiple gateways that you will deploy into your facilities, and you'll do that centrally from the SiteWise Cloud Console. As you deploy those gateways, it will configure your edge environment, including the data collection pack or the data processing pack, depending on the options that you've chosen in the Cloud Console. So that's the first interaction, which is really setting up your environment. Once you have that, the second interaction is more about configuring your model, configuring the interaction with the data that you get from the various data sources at the edge. So that's where you configure your model. You will go take existing model, create new ones, and configure their head the edge behavior that you want for those. So as Usman showed in the console, you want to configure whether or not the data is going to be stored at the edge for measurements, or if is it going to follow through and go to SiteWise in the cloud. Same thing with the processing of transforms and metrics, right? So if you configure the processing to be at the edge, it means that the data collection pack will communicate to the processing pack, which in turn will take care of the calculation of those transforms and metrics directly on the gateway before communicating them back to the cloud. So that's the big second interaction. And the third interaction is really this last bit of communicating what's coming from either the collection pack or the processing pack back to the cloud. So that can be to the SiteWise service in the cloud, um, and that can be either measurements, pre pre-processed metrics and transform, and it can also go from the data collection pack into S3 and timestream as examples. As Usman mentioned, all of the communication that happens between the components at the edge is happening with the use of Stream Manager that's delivered with Greengrass. So those streams can be configured in a way that the data is sent to S3, timestream, or SiteWise. By default, what is configured is the delivery to SiteWise in the cloud.
Thank you. As we talk so many benefits and advantage of SiteWise Edge, and I think our services is our IoT developers and customer are looking for. And regarding our use cases, do you know any typical use case you see our customer using this for? Usman, can you answer this?
Sure. Just a quick check. Can you still see my screen, the presentation?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah. So typically, so tying back to what I was saying earlier, we have customers that want to do local monitoring uh, on premises, and they want to make sure that those monitoring capabilities are not interrupted if the connection goes down. So what we have, a very common use case that we see is, caller tree monitoring. So specifically in many industries such as, pharmaceutical or cosmetics, once the product is coming off the production line, it has to be weighed, and it's usually manually weighed, and it's custom weighing apparatus. And what that apparatus does is it's converting uh, signals from the load cells that are within the weighing equipment, or and converting that into a mass reading and displaying it to an operator. So in such a scenario, it makes sense to like do that conversion of like electrical signals to a mass reading on premises. So you don't have to. So if the connection goes down, that still happens, and the operator can continue to do their work. Uh, so that's one example. The other example is, okay, let's say that there is an error. Let's say for the last 10 products that you checked, the trend is that the quality is going down. You want to dive into the details. So you want a limited amount of historic data right there on premises so that you can go back and forth your dashboards and look at how the trends are changing without having to rely on the internet. So that's one use case that we see customers using this for. Another use case is um, filtering high frequency data. We have customers that have remote assets all over, remote renewable energy assets such as solar farms and wind farms that are in far off places connected you over like satellite internet. They have limited bandwidth which has to be shared by a whole fleet or a whole farm of these assets. And so what they want to do with something like SiteWise Edge is they want to uh, filter down the data that is coming out of these assets, only send what is really needed for remote monitoring and analytics to the cloud. And that's how they optimize their bandwidth. Um, so similarly, like when it comes to so at a high level, any use case where you're processing data and you're visualizing data and you want that ability to be uninterrupted by loss of connection to the cloud, that fits very well with SiteWise. So you can think of like safety applications, you can think of efficiency monitoring applications, you can think of product test applications. Like you have a product on a test bench, you're running that product, you want to see the metrics in with as low latency as possible. You don't want that test to be interrupted if the connection is interrupted. So for that, it's good to have the edge processing capability uh, right next to the apparatus
What
on site.
one thing I'd like to add real quick on this is because Usman's mentioning developing application. One of the key thing in SiteWise Edge is that we've kept the exact same paradigm as what you got in the cloud. So we're using the exact same APIs at the edge and in the cloud, so you can develop your application for one environment and easily port it to the other environment or make it work in hybrid mode. We're using SIG 4 authentication as well on those APIs in the same way you would have in the cloud.
Yeah, great, thank you. And we've talked lots about SiteWise Edge. And to our IoT customers and developers, do we have any call to action info to share with us?
Absolutely. So we are in preview today. So you can go to go to the AWS website, go to the console, uh, log into the service. You can start using the service. We also have a blog on the official IoT blog that can help you get started with setting up your gateway if you're doing it for the first time and configuring the data processing pack. It also covers how you can start using the APIs to get data from your gateway. So yeah, start there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Also, we have so many sessions related to IoT and SiteWise Edge, and encourage everyone to attend. And thank you again for joining us. What's next on IoT SiteWise? Thank you, Usman, and thank you, Nicholas. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.